before, I'm just going to really quickly go over that notion of it, mastery again, and then straight into that collaborative. And I'd really love some sharing and some ideas, guys. So I am just going to minimize all of you so I can't see you. And if you just want to stop at any time and ask me anything, that would be wonderful. And I want to acknowledge the traditional lands on which we're all situated. I'm on Durry country. I'm just at the moment looking at two cockatoos who are trying to destroy my screen again. You two go away. And I pay my respects to elders past and present and any First Nations people here today. So we've been looking at the Symphony Pedagogy, and it kind of, started from my keynote that I did for the Garth Boomer, but I want to continue now by looking at collaboration, because one of my biggest worries is with the push for explicit instruction, which I believe teachers have always done anyway, it's getting mixed up with direct instruction, the sage on the stage, kids in rows, and no one really doing, engaging or contributing, and that is not teaching. It's useful. There are times when I would use direct instruction to introduce a new concept when I'm doing revision, but there's a few things wrong with that model. Number one, Professor John Fischetti says that students come to school to watch teachers work. That's one. And another one of John Fischetti's statements is that education is done to young people and not with them. And we know from the Grattan Institute report of nearly 3 years ago now that student engagement in this country is at its lowest ever. Not that we can always believe the Grattan Institute, but the research was quite robust. So I'm going to look at the collaboration with intention, and I think the key word is intention. It really doesn't work unless it's incredibly structured. And I suppose a lot of this comes from me, not just spending 25 years plus in fairly tough schools, and then 12 years in a boys' school, where you really had to be intentional if group work was going to work well. So just recapping where we started with the first session last term, it is a symphony. It's not just one pedagogical approach, but the most essential thing is mastery, which does come from explicit instruction, but it also comes from applying the learning. So it's that mastery of skills and knowledge, which means they gain deep understanding. So without those literacy skills, the literature skills, etc., children won't have the courage to be creative. They won't have the courage to try new things and apply their knowledge in different situations. So it is vital that we do that, and we ensure that we're always revisiting those core skills. I remember years ago, a class of really high potential learners, they said, the problem is that teachers assume because we're gifted that we know it, and so they start straight to the hard stuff, and then we miss out on the basics. And that's where we can often stuff up. So it's worthwhile looking at. This is one of my beautiful teachers and my school captain in Year 12, Talia. So mastery from Aero is actually not a bad definition of Aero. Mastery of learning is the accumulation and retention of knowledge, conceptual understanding, which for me is essential for teaching of English, and skills, and knowing when and how to use them. So it's transferring information to both familiar and new, leads to deeper understanding, more sophisticated use of knowledge, and we need mastery. It's fundamental. So I always come back to this definition, which I really like, because it's a constant reminder for me about the importance of students having deep learning. And this one I always come back to. I love the, it's a primary school model of building the field, but boy, does it work. And it's worth, again, looking at. So that's one that's for writing, but I thought it's a lovely model. But again, asking these key questions whenever we're programming or whenever we're planning a lesson. What do my students need to learn, and why does it matter? If you can't answer why it matters, then rethink it. What do they already know? We need to do that pre-knowledge, pre-testing. How will they demonstrate learning through assessment for, of, and as learning? How will they get there? That's your teaching, resources, each other, peer mentoring, peer feedback. What adjustments and modifications do I need to make? How can I problematize the learning? I love doing this. I often will open my programs with big questions and big idea questions. And I tell them, I want you to be able to answer these by the end of a unit of work. And you can differentiate that way really easily by the type of questions you ask. How can they use technology? More and more that's becoming important to us as English teachers. And how well do I expect them to do it? So there's incredibly high expectations, which I've always had in whatever school I have taught in. So straight in now into collaboration. And we know that collaboration, particularly for teachers new to the profession, it's not easy because it's far easier to keep them in those rows and keep them focused and on task, put them in groups, and it's kind of, you think, wow, I'm going to lose it. But the thing is, like I'm going to show you, when it's ordered, when it's structured, when it's intentional, collaboration works quite beautifully. It's not, if we don't overdo it, we put it in a strategic moments as we're teaching. So we know that it allows them to apply and test their skills, knowledge, and understanding, but it's together. They're learning together. They're sharing ideas. They develop their communication and critical thinking skills and access different perspectives. One of the most important things for me is DC and Ryan's self-determination theory. I think it's true of us as teachers, and it's certainly true of our students. We need to get that notion of mastery. We need to have relatedness, which is how collaboration can help. And we also need that kind of that sense of autonomy. And too often education, as I said earlier, is done to young people. So why collaboration? And I think, we all know why. You can see my year sevens here building their tower before they went to Luna Park. Student agency, I've just said, is really important. Student agency is not voice. Voice is having an opinion. Student agency is actually doing it and being active and controlling the learning. Critical thinking skills, which I think are pretty vital to our young people. Self-regulation, we're seeing less and less of this, and they're dropping out of uni because they don't have it. Understanding of and respect for different perspectives. And I don't know about you, but I'm finding more and more that people just don't want to listen to different perspectives anymore. We all get accused of being woke if we do. Exposure to and an increase in understanding of diverse perspectives is also really important. And the other one is learning together and from each other. And I just kind of see the joy that comes from that when it's done well. Improving communication skills together. Positive interdependence is something that's vital. I'm really a strong believer in social and emotional learning, and that it happens in the classroom, that wellbeing framework. Individual accountability. That's the problem with group work at university, and there's a lot of group work at university. And if your own children, well, I'm old, so my kids have been there, and I've now got a granddaughter at uni. A lot of time, the group work, people aren't accountable, and your child ends up doing it all. You don't want that. You want them to having that individual accountability. And it is active learning in the classroom. And the other thing is Hattie's 2009 work, where he actually had a really good analysis, a meta-analysis. So the related effect sizes, so peer tutoring, where they can help each other, is actually 0.55. Reciprocal teaching is really high, 0.74. So when they're teaching each other, so if there's an element there of learning from each other, for example, about themes from a Shakespearean play or a novel. Small group learning is around 0.49. Cooperative learning versus whole class instruction, you can see it's 0.41. Cooperative learning versus individual work is 0.59. And then you've got cooperative learning versus competitive learning is 0.54. So when we look at an effect size on student learning outcomes, it's not too bad. But you can see when there's reciprocal teaching, it's high. So it's really important to kind of have that sharing and learning together. That slide I've got there is a picture of students from China with my students. And there wasn't a lot of English speaking from the kids from Yi Foundation in China, but they, by the end of the time of working together, had created 3 haikus with a performance and with artwork, a wearable artwork T-shirt that combined the landscape of China with the landscape of Australia. And watching these kids with, about half the kids I have speak Mandarin at my school that went to this particular thing, 20 of the kids in this team, but watching them work together and learn from each other when kids in China never get to do theatre sport and rarely would ever get to write together. It was really great to watch the outcome of that. And why not? And this is where it becomes tough. One is school culture. I remember when I was a deputy head and I'd teach my year 12, I used to walk into an English classroom, desk in rows. So the boys knew the second they walked in, they put the desks in a U shape, because that's how I work best as a teacher. But before the bell went, we put the desk back in rows again. So it depends on your school culture can shift or break whether group work's going to work. Classroom management strategies are really, really important. You know, you can't be out the front, stage on the stage or on your laptop and, you know, that kind of moving around the classroom. Students off task, you know, if it's not engaging, you're going to find it really hard. An uneven contribution is probably the biggest problem in group work. I've got it twice, sorry. Quality of work that can be produced if it's not really closely monitored, complacency of the kids and passivity. You know, like we really don't want to do this. So I thought I'd look at rules of engagement, and I'm not going to play this whole piece here, but I thought I actually, when I do group work, I do have a rules of engagement that I give to each group, and it's a contract and they sign it. I mean, it means nothing, but it works. It kind of seems to work. The first of all one is, and I have sometimes have groups of 5, depending on how many's in your class. The in business, it's called have a team no bigger than could share a pizza. So a 3 to 4 is a group size, good group size. Really high expectations up front. Like I said, I use rules of engagement as my contract. Emphasize deep listening because we're not good at that one. None of us are anymore. And I do actually play this to them. It's Didiri by Dr. Miriam Rose. Establish really clear rules with the kids. Be intentional. Scaffolding is probably the best way to go with group work, and assign roles as part of that scaffolding. So just give me an idea of how beautiful this one. So this is Miriam. Look, it's worth showing right through. It's only 3 minutes and 42. I've actually done it with my senior leadership team, and I do a little activity before I start group with kids. I've actually done it with my own exec team just yesterday. We're doing the strategic plan for next year and the next 3 years. I actually said share one thing that you believe the other person doesn't know about you in 60 seconds. And then the other person does it, and then they've got to report it back. And with children, it can be a whole range of things, but unfortunately, I think we've lost the art of it. So it's something that's worth coming back to. So it's going to make me set deadlines and timelines, really important. I'm so tight on deadlines, particularly when I was dealing with, say, at Richmond River High with my really tough year 10 class. I'd have the stopwatch and I'd say, you've got 6 minutes. It's 4 minutes, 3 minutes. And it kind of keeps kids on tracks. Provide a tight time schedule. Address misconceptions. It's really important because we know that it's like something like habits, like tying shoelaces. If you're taught the wrong way when you're a child, it's really hard not to do those rabbit ears once you've been taught it. So, you know, listening for when there's misconceptions in the group work, for giving feedback like that, inviting feedback from other students and learning how to do it with respect. So one of the important things I should have had of my rules of engagement, which I always have, is work with each other with respect and invite feedback and reflection when it's over, and be present as a teacher, really listening, watching, and, you know, like today I had a year 10 passion project group. I've got them write everything from writing songs to writing a novella to writing poetry. And I didn't stop moving around the whole 24 of them. I was going and seeing what their different things were, watching what in technology they were using. Apart from the fact I had great fun and I learned a lot because everything's due in 2 weeks' time. So they're kind of hurriedly working with their passion projects. With brainstorming. One of the ways you can do it is using technology. So it depends whether you're a Microsoft or a Google team. It doesn't matter at your school, but Google Docs can be done. You just set it up as a team for them, or they do. Or I use Microsoft Forms here because we're a Microsoft school. You've got all the others like Jamboard, Miro, Mural, Padlet's pretty cool. I don't mind using Padlet. Kahoot, I'm kind of over, to be honest with you. We've got it in the junior school a lot, but Canva, should say Canva there, but our kids use that a lot. My favorite is Notebook LM. I was showing that to the kids today. And I'll talk more about it as I go through. I love using Notebook LM. It's kind of revolutionized a lot of what I do, and it also allows you to work with kids with special needs because it'll create podcasts for them. It'll create quizzes for them, mind maps for them, you name it, and it's within a safe environment of their own data. So I'm going to give you some examples, and these are just ideas from me about ways you could do it that are a little bit different. And I might pause for breath at the moment, and I'm just going to stop sharing and just invite some comments from everyone, please.
I was just going to add what you've been saying, Karen, really resonates with me. So I'm in a weird position where I'm at a new school and we only have year 7 students. And so being able to set up those rules of how you work together when they came from like 15 different schools and there's only 80 of them has been really important. And I think to the point now where the kids go, why haven't you set the timer? Because I am big on timers, because I'll say 5 minutes, but then I'll lose track myself. So really setting that up means they now are used to those routines. And it's amazing now. We probably spent what some teachers would have thought was too much time in term 1 setting up how you collaborate. But we've made up all that time right now. We're not behind in our learning. In fact, now we can go faster than if I was still just trying to make it happen without actually doing it.
Oh, that's a really great point. Anyone else? Lucy, what about you?
I'm just reflecting on some of the group work that I've been setting up recently, and I think I'm a little bit guilty of not doing it intentionally. So this is, I mean, at this time of the term, we're all coming towards assessment tasks. So I think that perhaps it's a little bit situational also. But I'm just really liking these ideas of, I like the pizza rule. I like teaching. It is almost like we need to explicitly teach deep listening. I think these days with so much just them constantly taking in so much that it's actually a good, it's a good moment to pause and actually, I think actually in class today, I was even thinking about attention and how respectful attention is. What you give your attention to is what you respect and what you value and what you get things out of. So yeah, it's resonating with where I'm at the moment in the classroom too. Yeah, thank you, Karen.
Actually, when I put present, probably being present is, and that should just be everyone, not just the teacher, but the kids.
Yeah.
Thanks, Liz. Naomi?
I just wanted to add what resonated with me was the idea of, and I think you had it twice on the slide, and perhaps that's a good thing because we do find there's a few passengers when it comes to group work, and I refer to it as to the students as being a passenger, sitting back, letting everybody else do that work, and how you can really ensure role clarity from the outset to ensure there's no one just sitting back.
That's a good point. And
you go, sorry.
No, you, Naomi.
I was just going to, sorry, I was jumping to something else. Maybe just for my needs, I wondered if you could go a little further into the purpose and intention of what you shared earlier regarding deep listening. We couldn't hear alongside the video. So no, that's okay. I just wondered if you could go into a little bit more detail around that.
So deep listening, Dadiri, is really very much about pausing for breath and being absolutely in the moment with the other person. And one of the best ways to do it, and I've done this with my own class, is to get your students to go for a walk in a pair. And so share their writing together and give feedback. And you time them and you watch them and you'll find that no one's off task. So that's one way to really teach deep learning. So deep learning is I am listening and I'm present. And I really care. I mean, that YouTube clip, and you just look up Dadiri, Dadiri, is just beautiful. Dr. Miriam Rose, we heard her in Darwin at the 8 conference when it was there. And she just changed. Honestly, I've done it with the aspiring middle leaders at my school. I do it with my exec team. I should do it with my school council after last night. I just think it's just so important because I don't know about you, how often, like someone will come in my office, like today, I've just been going since 7 this morning and I feel honestly I'm really quite exhausted, right? I'm trying to do contracts for a new building. I'm dealing with a recalcitrant kid and a parent. I had that meeting. And one of my beautiful exec came in and she wanted to talk to me about professional learning. And I'm typing away and I'm like this and I went, stop. And I turned around and looked at her and I said, I'm so sorry. I'm present. And I think we've got to do it too. But kids are bad at it. There's what I call skimmers. We are a bit too, like how often do you do this? Swipe sideways. So they're not used to listening much anymore. And parents, we've all got earsets in, mobile phones. Yeah, I practice it a lot. I'm practicing it with my 3 and 5-year-old grandsons in Sydney at the moment. And they were cooking with me the other day. I was testing them, but they were listening.
Because it is quite. Oh, sorry, you go on, Naomi.
No, you go.
No, you go on.
Naomi,
Honestly,
you finish.
I was just going to say, in a recent other PL that I did, the instructor put up 3 images, and one was maybe about how we may have been feeling. Another was just a little bit of color, and then the final one was to kind of bring peace and calm, and just going through those 3 images. And then I did it with my team, some of whom are in the room with me now. And it does help you to just kind of center and be present. So even just using images can be really effective.
I used to tell my young teachers, and I've worked at some pretty tough disadvantaged schools in my career. I used to tell my very young staff, if you've got a really good YouTube clip, play it as they're coming in the room. And just absolutely settles your entire class. As long as it's not heavy metal, something that just settles the class, it can do it straight away. And that attention, I mean, one of the things I used to do was start with a quiz at the 5-minute question, a really tough question, start every single English lesson. So, I always had something that was centering everyone. You're so right. The other thing I did teach my students, my seniors, particularly with assessment tasks, I did teach them diaphragm breathing. So before every assessment task, we would do 10 diaphragm deep breathing, from the lungs down. I did opera singing when I was at school. So I was taught diaphragm breathing, and I teach that, and I did yoga till I was about 40. So I teach them how to do that. And then we used to do YMCA. This is 17, 18-year-old boys, 24 of them, you imagine them. But then it just really settled them before a major assessment task, and they swore that it improved their results. Yeah.
Okay,
Jess, did
great.
you want to add anything? Or Lucy, I cut you off. Jess?
hello.
Hi, Jess.
Sorry. Hi, I'm at home. It's just kind of weird doing this from home. Yeah, I'm just writing like little messages to the team that are all together, because I'm just like, yes, I love breathing exercises. I love those things that kind of get them in the zone.
Yeah.
But I really like that way of getting, focused when you come in, and having some routines that are going to work for perhaps more disengaged kind of students, or who are inclined to be a bit maybe hyperactive when they come in or whatever. And I like the YouTube video one. I'm gonna try that out and see how.
Do you know, I strongly believe that all kids like routine. We need certainty in an uncertain world. And those routines can be fun.
Yeah.
And they don't have to be. I mean, I used to watch the boys when I used to say, okay, we're going to give peer feedback. You go for a walk. You've got exactly 15 minutes. Read each other your opening, give really critical feedback, and you're back here. I used to stand on the veranda. You're back here honestly, I'd watch them, and my heart would swell, because I thought, number one, they're doing the work. and it's not the teacher just front loading. And two, they really did engage, in what they were doing. Like, it was really lovely. I'm going to, Lucy, did you want to say anything before I go back into the presentation?
No, not at all. It was just a small comment. Keep going.
Okay. Is that showing for all you guys? Looks like it's doubled up. Everyone got it?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. Whoops. Oh, now it's playing up. Okay, so my first one was I'm going to present a couple of ideas. And look, this is just me coming up with ideas in between my work this week. But I like sharp time periods for kids, and as well as sometimes when you need to linger in the words. But 2 periods in teams of 5 this time to investigate one of the themes of Macbeth and include the following. So you're giving them really, and again, this could be done in Google Word, or it could be done in Forms or whatever you like. Relevant contextual details on Macbeth, and you should also explicitly teach things like using Google Scholar and putting inverted commas around what they want to find so they can find it exactly. At least 5 quotes that reflect the theme, an overview of the theme, 150 words, which is not much that you're getting to do, 5 key aspects of the theme, and a 60-second performance by a character who aptly represents a theme. So they can decide who that is, and they've got roles. So they've actually got the investigator, the quotes and characters words finder, the overview writer. You can use Notebook LM because it'll Notebook LM, or actually if they have a PDF of Macbeth and they put it in, it'll identify the common themes in about probably 80 seconds. The key aspects writer, so they're going to be number 4, and then the actor. Now, this can be absolute fun because the 60-second performance wouldn't be done in the 2 periods. So your 3rd period would be your 60-second performances with each team. So it's just the 2 where they've got this time, you're working your way through it, and you're really getting the kids to feedback, but you've got to front load it. And the front loaded is you might have already given them some contextual information on that actual period of when this play was written and why Macbeth, Shakespeare much maligned Macbeth when he was actually the king that united Scotland, was a really good king, didn't kill Duncan, for example. So, there's and Duncan was not a good person. So there's some interesting things they can find out. This one I use a lot. I run a boot camp for Year 12 every Tuesday afternoon here. For the year, and this is what I did a lot at my own school. So you select a section of the HSC exam you'll be targeting. So in New South Wales, it might be Mod A rubric and some Mod A exam questions. As long as you PDF them, you open Notebook LM and you throw them in. You upload a PDF of the Year 12 syllabus curriculum or the relevant section, and then you upload past papers or past questions as a PDF, and request Notebook LM to generate practice essay questions for you. It'll even give you answers if you want it. So it's just really getting them at the key stage now where kids are going to be, say in Queensland, sitting there at an English exam, New South Wales kids coming into an HSC, for example, where you're actually, or just preparing for a school assessment task, where you're actually getting kids who've kind of run out of questions or they've stolen enough questions from other schools and past papers. But now it's kind of, if you don't want to use Notebook LM, why Notebook LM? Because it's a safe environment and it'll just do it based on what information you've uploaded. If you want to use chat, it'll go out there. But it'll steal questions probably from past papers and that, where you kind of want Notebook LM will be far more original and base it on the material you've uploaded. And then what happens is the kids actually practice and model together the openings to those questions. And then this one, I've done this. I actually love this one. It's called Crafty Setting Support Team. I love giving cool little names to the teams, so it's not just you're doing group work. Their task is to individually create a 300-word setting. So now you've actually got them working on their own that is evocative and authentic with the support of your team. So number 1, on your own, draft a setting of a place that is special to you, include place names, visual and auditory imagery, and descriptive details. You would have front-loaded this. You would have looked at maybe some Tim Winton stuff. You would have had some really great, beautiful examples of good settings. Focus on using words and imagery that evoke an emotion in your reader. So you're now kind of directing them down a certain pathway. So you might talk to them about pathetic fallacy, or the way they use muscular verbs in their writing, or the way they kind of pretend that something's about to happen. Work with the team of 3 to refine and sharpen the description of the setting. So in the group, you're going to have the imagery checker. So they will read the 3 settings and check for visual and sound imagery, make suggestions such as adding onomatopoeia and a simile. The appeal to emotions checker, read the 3 settings and observe the emotions that are evoked, make suggestions such as adding pathetic fallacy or striking verbs that convey emotion. And then the edit checker, check spelling, punctuation and syntax or sentence structure, make suggestions such as varying sentence lengths. And it really, what you're doing by getting them to be the checker, they're actually learning themselves. So they're focusing on what needs to happen to improve the quality of writing. And 300 words means it's doable. It can happen within a period, or it can happen, they write in this one period, in the second period, they actually go through this process and provide that feedback. And then during that second period, there's time for the students to refine their writing. So again, it becomes that if you look at, there's a lot of research around the importance of students seeing themselves as scientists, mathematicians, or our subject as writers. And so you're kind of making out, yeah, you are writers and you're working in a team together. This one is something that would, you could use design thinking, and it's a sprint in this case. I actually use, I'm using this currently, I'm running a Future Now task force with my parents, staff, executive, school council, and students. And we're all working on one thing each for the future, the Future Now task force. And we're using design thinking next week to do this. And so they've got to investigate 3 approaches for a campaign to promote the novel you are studying in class to other students. Use the IDEO design thinking approach to develop the 3 ways. Why would your approaches make a difference? And how would others feel about your approaches? So that's the humanist element. So how would they feel? And then test the ideas with students from other teams. And there's the ideas are things like an Instagram post, a book trailer, a slam poem from the character's perspective, a new catchy book cover, date with a book campaign or a podcast. Notice I never put YouTube because they soon won't be able to create YouTube anymore. They can watch it, they won't be able to create. So you might, give them a whole lot of different ideas about what they can do. It's fun. It means they really should have read it if they're doing this. But again, if they're coming up, if they're a team of 4, you could have 4 approaches and one of them each does a different approach. So that's another way to probably make sure that everyone's got a job. And then they're actually using the design thinking approach, prototyping it, and then they're testing it with students from other teams. So it's something can be done, basically over a week pretty easily, over even just 4 periods. This one is essay experts. I have done this so many times with my senior kids. You could do it with 9 and 10. Provide students with at least 5 essay questions and a rubric or marking guidelines. Allocate 1 to a team of 4 or more, so 1 essay topic for each team. Students are tasked with developing an opening to the question that features a strong thesis and then a scaffold for the body of the essay. Whiteboards are ideal. I love rooms with whiteboards in them. You just give them, you get them up and moving. Oh, those little whiteboards that you can buy from Spotlight and different places like that. If you don't have that, you can just use butcher's paper, or you could use an online thing. Teams read all responses. So you get the team to write it, work on it, and then while I love whiteboards, they can walk around the room and they actually read all the responses and they add comments, tick what they like, circle, have different color markers for that. And if game, get the teams to predict what the possible grade would be for the essay. I always did that and boy, it worked. I remember I had an amazing year 12 class. I didn't pick them up till term 1. And I gave them this task for T.S. Eliot. And I remember I just changed the preposition in the question to make it really hard. And they all did it and they said, okay, what predicted grades? And they went around and I never said a mark. I just said B or A or a C or whatever. And they all gave themselves an A or a B. And I went around and I said, well, none of you are actually, because you haven't read the question right. And it was just before the bell for recess. And they went, no, yes, we have. I said, no, you haven't. You're all in about top C range. Well, they didn't go when the bell went. They stayed until they got it. And it was one of them, Giacomo Rotolo Ross. He's actually at USyd now. He said, oh my gosh, ma'am, it's the preposition. And just that thinking, and it's exciting and it's fast, and you can walk around and contribute to it as well, but it just works. If you don't have those whiteboards, and think outside the square of what it could be and how you could do that one. This one, I actually
could I interrupt you for a second and
Yeah, I'm
ask
gonna
the
stop.
question?
Yeah.
Just on the design thinking sprint slide, you were talking about using the IDEO design thinking approach. I haven't actually heard of that before. I've just done a quick Google and I can see the website here, but I was wondering if you could just talk through kind of how that looks in your classroom, or I know you said you were using that with your parents.
So
at
you
school.
actually, I'm just give me 2 seconds. I'm just gonna get out of the,
Did you want me to put the link in the chat? If
no,
it's
no,
the
I
right
don't
one,
need that.
hopefully.
Just
No.
give me 2
Okay.
seconds. I'm trying to get out of my PowerPoint for a minute. And if you can bear with me, I'm just going to, because I'll have to open a document. I'm just going to show you what I've done. And so it's very different to the English approach, but I'll show you what I've done with what I'll be doing next week with the team.
Mhm.
Sorry, I've got so many documents. Just got to get to the future of learning. Okay, got it. And okay. September meeting. See, I've got to try and find everything. Honestly, what have I done with it? Might have trouble even finding this one. Sorry. What have I saved it under? So I might be able to find it. I might have to send it to you. I think I would have saved it in my September meeting. I just might
No,
put
that's
him.
okay. Thank you. Sorry, it looks really interesting. I just wanted to
love
see
it.
how it
I
kind of
really-
comes to life.
Look, I used to use it for, I actually used it when I used to run the Da Vinci Decathlon that's run across the country.
Yeah.
And I would use it for some of the tasks that I did. So I'm going to have one last go because I only did it the other day. Recent. Usually they'll come up. It's not coming up. Oh, hold on. Found it. Knew there was a way to find it. All right, back in again. Share. Now I've got to make sure I open the right one. Okay. All right, so let's give you an idea. Step 1 is empathize. So I have given the task to each of the teams. So one of the teams called the Anthropocene, they're looking at sustainability and why it matters in schools. Another one is looking at learning beyond the classroom. And so I've asked them all to come up with a blue sky thinking idea that I couldn't just implement in school next week or next year. So something really outside the box. So the first task is empathize, and empathy is seeing with the eyes of another, listening with the ears of another, and feeling with the heart of another. Why would what you are trying to achieve matter to others? So this is their idea. This is how they start to test their idea. How will students, parents, and staff feel about your idea? In 10 years from now, how will people feel and what will they think about what you've implemented? So you'd modify this for kids, right? For whatever task. Step 2 is define. So will your idea have a significant impact? Why? How is your idea adaptive, allowing for a variety of approaches and solutions? What will be the greatest challenge? Step 3 is ideate. Brainstorm your idea, create a mind map, a storyboard, or just brain dump the ways the idea could be realized and implemented. Step 4 is prototype. Test your idea by considering the pros and cons. Consider these questions. Why does it matter? How will it make a difference? How will others feel? So pros and cons of the idea, and then test it. Share your idea with at least one of the team, family members and peers. This is for my group, using this feedback. So likes, criticisms, questions, and ideas. Does that make sense, Lucy?
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's nice to see how it looks
Yeah.
practically. Thank you.
It's just trying to sharpen people's thinking. That's
Yeah.
really what I'm trying to do. Like putting in things that actually work. So I've got to find the PowerPoint again. And I'm on the wrong slide. Where am I? So I'll go up. Okay, so this one, Shakespeare on Trial, I actually did at Richmond River High with Year 10. And I've got the unit of work that I wrote. This came out of my Premier's scholarship that I did when I researched Shakespeare, and I worked with the Globe Theatre Company and worked with these amazing people on who were like the guy who led the fight to have Richard III's name cleared. I had the most amazing time. Anyway, it's called the Defence Team, and it takes a whole term to do this. And what the kids did was amazing. The team has been appointed to represent one of the following: the ancestors of Macbeth versus Shakespeare's defamatory accusations, the ancestors of Richard III versus Shakespeare's defamatory accusations, or the ancestors of a French soldier ordered to be killed by Henry V. Two members are the research assistants who use the internet and the play to examine recorded history as opposed to Shakespeare's representation and provide notes for the team, can use Notebook LM to summarise. One member compiles the legal arguments, 500 words, and one member is the defence lawyer who presents the opening statement, 2 minutes max. Now that sounds really hard, but I was working with, they used to unfortunately stream at Richmond River High, and as a head teacher, I didn't have much control over it. I had the bottom class. And so I'm talking about kids that one went on to do life skills. And so I found we were doing extracts, and I went through and picked the best extracts from all three plays. When I did the following year, I just did Macbeth. And they loved putting Shakespeare on trial for Macbeth. It really works. So that's just something out there, really different. It's a bit more bolshy. Having done it before, it works. I've got the unit of work if you want it. Obviously, you'd have to put the new Australian curriculum outcomes on it, but it's something that I did have fun with a long time ago. This one is recent, and I'm really, really big on here on climate. We have a climate project team here. Sustainability is in my strategic plan. It's in the ethos of the school and everything we do. I back onto National Park here. We're in a high bushfire zone. We have platypus. We've got echidnas that try and get into the IT department. One tried to catch a bus last week. So it's a really beautiful place. So this is Team Slam Poem. And so, first of all, I'd share with the students for inspiration the Red Room Poetry Young Poet winners of the Climate Action Meditations on Hope and Deep Love and Care for the Natural World. It's all free. In teams of 3, students create a multimedia slam poem about why we should protect the environment. They can focus on a special place, an endangered animal, or their school playground to try and get rid of rubbish. The team or one member generates images using Adobe Firefly. Adobe Firefly, superb, far better than chat. It's free, and you can get really high quality images copyright free when you use it. Or takes photographs for the media production, which is probably even better because they've all got phones. The team write the poem together, focusing on visceral and auditory imagery, forceful verbs, rhyme and repetition, and the team record their performance just using their phones if they're allowed. If phones are banned, using their laptop, an iPad, or whatever you want. And again, for this unit, I've written the unit called the Anthropocene. If you would like it, I presented it, I think, at an 8 conference. I can't remember which one now. No, I won't try and remember where it was. I think it might have been South Australia, but with a national curriculum outcomes on it. But one of the ones, for example, that I've used is this guy, Zohad Zikhan. There's so many great examples. I don't think for some reason you guys can't hear this. Is that right?
Yeah, there's no sound
Okay.
on the video. Yeah.
Can you see the words?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop him because you can't hear it, unfortunately. So I thought I'd ask any comments on anything, any questions or any ideas that have actually worked for all of you. Because I'm okay. Any ideas and you'll be finished far earlier than what you thought you would be. No, you won't. Actually, we're on time. I've got to go to the Year 12 Design and Technology, Visual Arts and Extension 2 and Science Extension and History Extension works that are on display at our school this afternoon. Any comments you'd like to add? Any feedback? Any further ideas?
Thank you, Karen. It's always fabulous to hear you speak and those ideas. And I just think this is what makes me excited to be an English teacher. And I feel like a lot of us, if you've been teaching for a few years, may start to feel that little bit of strain between what we're being told we're doing and what we are actually doing. And this is what we love doing. English is about talking and speaking and working together. We are not a quiet subject. You may hear complaints about the noisiness of my classroom. But I think it's really important that we continue to have students' voices being heard, but also that collaboration, because actually that's what they need when they leave our schools.
Yeah, it is. Thank you. And look, I still remember getting in trouble at Richmond River High because I wrote a stage 5 Bollywood unit and I had all the kids doing Bollywood dancing, Bride and Prejudice.
Beautiful.
He walked in, Big Nev walked in, big cattle farming guy, and he went, "What's going on in here?" And of course, I'm in the middle of it all, aren't I? All dressed up. So then
I think what I would like to say, sorry. I don't know why we're on a delay. I apologize. I just wanted to say, for me, the key takeaway, because I'm always trying group work, but it's really about the role clarity, but also the specificity of the role depending on the task or the outcome. I really liked how you'd named up a different role that was very specific to the outcome you were needing. And I don't think I've played around with role clarity like that before. So that's my key takeaway. Thank you.
And you can then assign not just a group mark, you can actually assign a student mark, which is, again, it kind of gives more of a fairness to the marking, particularly if you're using it not as a summative, but as a formative. It then becomes more fun. Anyone else? Jess?
I just wanted to say that I love how creative and just playful so many of the ideas are. And I sometimes find myself not steering away from group work, but just approaching it a little bit slowly because some students get a bit nervous about it. And so like Naomi said, having that really clear what each person's going to do, I think will help prevent that worry.
And you know, with the younger ones, one of the things I didn't put up, I do Master Chef of stories. So I love micro stories, and particularly 50 words and ban the letter E, because it makes them, and then do it on a cemetery at night. Like, it's even better. And the kids love it because you put them in teams, and I actually go and buy those, those paper chef hats, and then I get the boxes and I put ingredients in it. So one of the ones I've done is, I love William Blake. To see the world in a grain of sand and beauty in a tiny flower, to hold eternity in the palm of your hand and time within the hour. So in the box, I put a flower or a shell. I put 1 or 2 little words like time or beauty. And then I'd actually say you've got to have 1 muscular verb. And I will have taught what muscular verbs are or striking verbs are. And they've all got, I often give different ingredients. And then I say, all right, you've got exactly 20 minutes to create the best 50-word story cake in the history of story cakes. And I'll tell you what, I've never not had a year 7. I did it with year 5 here last term. Oh my God, talk about competitive little monkeys. They were amazing. Like, their micro stories were the best I've ever read. They're in the library now, they're framed. So you can have so much fun with the little guys. Like, year 7 and 8's fun because it's playtime, right? But you can do play and learning at the same time. And I'm very specific about things. So even the older ones that I was telling year 10 about the other day, I did a session with them on writing, and I was telling them, they said, why can't we do that stuff? We don't get to do fun stuff anymore. So, that's another really cool idea. And again, with with that one, you don't need a role because they're all kind of working so intently on trying to get a piece, and you can make it harder by what ingredients you place in it. So I'm a pretty creative person. I love coming up with different stuff. I mean, the hard part for me as a principal now is I don't get to have fun like this. So I go and steal classes, particularly year 5 and 4. And the year 12s, I just do boring stuff like study, but I make it fun. So I can't teach any other way. I mean, I get bored. I'm naughty. I'm someone who's got to be active all the time, which probably by being a principal suits me because you never stop, but it's okay. Thank you. Good point.
I love that.
So look, any ideas you've got, think about it. You know, we could kind of create our own little cool stuff on collaboration, our own little publication or whatever. But I think there's some really nice ideas. Let's return the magic and the fun to English.
Yep.
Yeah, let's engage them, because do you know the worst thing in New South Wales? They do a survey of all kids that leave, I think it's about 80% of kids that leave Year 12. Their most hated subject is English. And that breaks my heart as someone who loves English so much. So that's what exams do too.
Yep. Sad.
All right. Look, thank you so much, everyone. It's 4:30. Thank you for joining us. Hope you've enjoyed it. And I'll make sure Wendy gets a copy of the PowerPoint so she can share it with you all. All right.
Thank you. See you later,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye.
Thank you so much, Karen.